Last weekend I participated in Ludum Dare 50, but this time I wasn't going as a solo developer. I joined a team of my college buddies. 2 years ago I graduated in game design and development. The degree lasted 4 years, and at that time I made some friends and participated in multiple game jams. We used to work in the same company, but now our paths have parted, professionally speaking. Usually we made 2 or 3 game jams together every year, but we kinda stopped at the start of the pandemic. Maybe because having a full-time job leaves you with little desire to spend a weekend making a game, or the pandemic and the distance. However, last week we decided to change that and join the Ludum Dare 50. We will go in as a more relaxed game jam, as we used to crunch hard to complete our game jams, and that wasn't healthy. Anyway, the jam began and the theme was announced. Delay the inevitable. It was a cool theme, and several ideas came to our minds. Maybe a game about balancing an object and delaying his fall? What if we made a game about falling onto a pit and trying to slow down the fall? Or something more narrative, a conversation or something like that. We usually spend a lot of time in the idea phase and planning the game when we do a jam. This time was no different. We spent like half a day talking about ideas. Finally, we agreed on making a game about trying to prolong a conversation. And as we never did a card game, that would be our game genre. But we needed to think who would want to prolong a conversation. After many ideas, we settled on a salesperson. Almost everyone is annoyed by phone calls from salespeople. Its job is to keep you on the phone and try to convince you. However, it's inevitable that you will hang up. It was a perfect match for the Ludum Dare theme. Without further delay, we got to work on this idea. The team was composed by 2 programmers and 3 designers. I joined the programming team and was in charge of making the drag and drop mechanics of the game. The idea of the game is that the player will have a deck of cards, and they can be combined to create combos, or just send the cards to the enemy. When you send a card or a combo, the enemy will stay at the phone for a little longer, but eventually he will hang up. I also program a small audio manager, something similar to what I use in my personal projects. My programmer partner made a base for the code, as I was busy the first afternoon of the jam. He made all classes for the cards, decks, player and general loop of our game. That was really helpful, as I could focus on the drag and drop mechanic the next day. The system was pretty simple. It took 1 hour to be set up. But as the mechanics of the game were more clear, it got messier. It is easy to create a script to drag and drop items in the game, but I needed to have clear distinctions of where you could drop the cards. We narrowed it down to 3 cases. 1. Dropping the card in the upper area, where the character that got the card is. 2. Dropping the card in the middle section, where you can combine cards and make combos. 3. Anywhere else. In that case, the cards will return to the player. However, quickly the problems began. In our game, a card is drawn from the deck every so often. This is time-based, and the only condition is to have room on the player's hand. With these cards, you can directly send them to the character, or you can store them in the middle section. Let's call it table. So, what happens when the player stores a card on the table, receives a card in his hand, and then moves the card to an invalid area? According to my first approach, the card should return to the player's hand, but the player's hand is full, so what now? I encountered this kind of problems for all the day that I managed to work on the game jam. In the end, I think that the mechanic is pretty solid. It has a few bugs, but they won't block the progress of the game. For example, you might receive a card in your hand and then stack another on top. You still have both cards, and you can juggle them to access both. So I'm not entirely happy about how this turned out, but it's good enough. The next day I spent some time polishing the mechanics and making sure that no fatal errors were present. I also implemented the audio that a friend made. I think that his work was a perfect match for the art of the game, made by another friend, by the way. I will leave the itch.io pages of all my friends, in case you want to check them out. They are all great game developers, and we had a great time making this game jam. I am also testing some of the games other people made, and there are a lot of great ones. For example, there is one called Catch the Phone, that was really interesting. You have to bounce your phone without dropping it. And kudos to the great humor on it, always welcome. If you want to check it out, there is a link in the description. So what do you think about our game? I played it a few times and this is my highest score. Do you think you can beat it? Post your score in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to play any of the games I talk about, there is a link in the description. Thanks for watching, see you next time!